Koe. Thank you for being with us for this special episode of Techbytes, and kia ora, Lee. Great to have you back here. This one's going to be a little bit different. We've talked to Lee previously about his journey into IT, etc. So if you're interested in hearing that story, you can go back on our playlist or on our podcast to last November, I think. So it's almost a year.
Mm.
Time just flies so quickly. But in that time, at Two Ends, we've been doing some work, mahi around engaging with Māori and Pacifica, trying to get more rangatahi into technology type roles, but also talking about what else we can do in various spaces, like looking after them with Māori and Pacifica when they join our organisations. But there's a project that we want to talk to Lee about, which is sort of combining some of that mahi and desire with our um, need to address digital inequity, and that's one of our six key priorities at Two Ends. And it's work that we've been doing. We are involved with DECA, but also Lee's doing some exciting things. So welcome back, Lee. I know you've been on this before, but just introduce yourself a little bit, and what's this project that you're now involved in?
Yeah, kia ora, Craig, and thanks for inviting me back to Techbytes. Yeah, it has been a year, eh? That's wow, time has flown. um, Kia ora, everyone. My name is Lee Timutimu. I'm a man of many hats, but I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm also a social impact entrepreneur. I'm an advocate and leader in the Maori Digitech community. So those are probably the main potai that I wear at the moment. One of the, I guess, audacious kaupapa or ventures that I'm working on currently is what we're calling a social impact ISP. So essentially, what it is a entity, a charitable, not-for-profit entity that's seeking to offer low-cost, fast internet to low income households, and I guess that's it in a nutshell. When I refer to fast internet, what I mean is fiber broadband internet. So I'll probably be using them interchangeably throughout our discussion, Craig. But yeah, the social impact ISP is one of the important, I guess, kaupapa that I'm working on at the moment.
Cool. Yeah, so let's talk about the specific needs of low
Mm,
socioeconomic communities. You're involved in doing some research for our affordable connectivity paper, and you looked at some of the things in there. So what are those needs that you're aiming to
mm,
address?
yeah. So I guess some context to start with. We know that through that affordable internet connectivity report that we provided some, I guess, research for in partnership with DECA. We know that there's 130,000 households currently in New Zealand that don't have an internet connection. That's a pretty large number for a first world country. We know that there are around about 58,000 low income households. So these are potentially our target audience. And I guess on top of that, we also found, or we know, should I say, that internet for most whānau is unaffordable. We know that around about $7 per week is what whānau can comfortably afford to pay for an internet connection. That's a fast internet connection. And so that might be quite a low number to, I guess, to most of us, but to a whānau that has to decide whether to pay for internet or whether to pay for food, in that context, it's it can be quite a heavy cost, I guess you could say. But so we know that $7 per week is the kind of affordable amount that most whānau can pay, and I guess that segues into the conversation around the digital divide. So one of the things that impacts on the digital divide in New Zealand at the moment, and we saw this come out um, more during COVID times, but during lockdown, is um, the ability to access the internet, affordable internet, that is. So one of the big challenges that we're hoping to I guess help to solve is that digital divide, specifically around affordable internet connectivity. I think for me, and why this mahi is so important in standing up this social impact ISP, which will provide low cost fast internet, is that because of the digital divide, because of the inability to afford an internet connection. What that means for whānau, what that means for households in New Zealand today, is that they are excluded from participating in an increasingly digital world.
Mm. That is so true. That is so true. And we know that, with government talking, just government talking about digitizing government, that there's a risk that those that are left out or left behind already will just be in a worse situation.
Mm, yeah.
Is it just about the connectivity that you're working on?
Yeah, I guess no, it's not. And I suppose if I start with our vision is to challenge the digital divide in Aotearoa New Zealand, with a mission to improve the lives of all New Zealanders that are affected currently by the impacts of what we call data poverty, and of course the digital divide itself. So those are kind of our foundation beliefs. But if I think about the broader overarching goals, certainly affordability is one of those goals. We want to be able to provide a low cost, fast internet service to low income households. I guess that's what this whole thing is about. But there are other goals that we have in mind as well. One of those goals is community empowerment, is probably how I'll describe it. So, what that means is we want to be able to empower local communities through job opportunities and also digital literacy opportunities and the ability for our households, so our customer households, to have access to some sort of online digital literacy platform that will provide them with ongoing education and learning. And so I think that's a really critical piece to this whole internet connectivity thing, because we know that it's one thing to provide whānau in a household with an internet connection, but it's another thing to ensure that they have the ability to safely navigate the internet, but also to be able to use technology in a way that's more meaningful and more impactful to their household and also to their whānau as well. So community empowerment is going to be a big play within what we're trying to create with the Social Impact ISP. And the last one that I should mention is community partnerships. So what I mean by that is we want to be able to work with community partners within their communities to support the mahi that they are doing within their communities. So we're really, well, I am focused on creating a mechanism whereby we're sharing some of the profits that comes out of this Social Impact ISP and diverting that back into, or allocating that back into our community partners and throughout the partnerships that we maintain with these people and organizations, so that they can so that it supports their mahi, which is important.
Mm.
And another thing that we hope that falls out of that community partnership mechanism is that, and by funding those community partners, is that we hope that they'll be able to empower the people in their communities to design solutions for those communities in terms of using innovation to solve some big problems that exist
Mm.
within those local, local settings. And one example I want to use where that could be quite impactful and powerful is we know that up in the far north, they are experiencing power outages or power cuts at least once a week, maybe twice sometimes. And to me, that actually just blows my mind that we live in a
Mm.
first world country where we're still experiencing power cuts in regions. And so my thinking is that if we can support our community partnerships that work within, say, the far north, to empower their local networks and communities to come up with solutions that could hopefully solve the power cut problem, then that's a good use of the putia that we're generating within this organization. But also, it's a great way to empower those community partners too.
Yeah. Hey, look, we know the current environment with this current government. It's not all about the numbers, but numbers are important. So, how will you measure success, and what sort of metrics will you track for this project?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think we're all trying to figure out how we can leverage a blend of quantitative but also qualitative data to paint a better picture. And and really just show, I guess, the social impact of the mahi that we do. And so I haven't seen anyone that's kind of doing it really well at the moment, but I think if I think about some of the more obvious metrics, I guess one of those would be the number of households that we connect, number of household connections. But also, if I look within inside of each of those households, how many of whānau members have we been able to positively impact by providing them with access to the internet? Now, it's not just general use of the internet that's important to participate as a global citizen, or even just as a citizen in New Zealand. It's also for education purposes. We know that, and we saw this in COVID, right? Like for those whānau that were unable to access the internet or had a very poor level of service because they could only afford a certain internet or type of internet connection. Um, but I guess the key challenge from that was that our kids couldn't participate in the education system through online learning because either they didn't have access to the internet in the first place, or the internet that they did have wasn't quite at the right speed. So that's one part of the internet, is one part of it, but also computing equipment. So access to a good, a good quality computer or laptop was another challenge that our whānau face as well. But coming back to the metric, I think straight off the bat, the number of household connections, and certainly this is how we're thinking in terms of our strategizing, planning for the rollout of the social impact ISP into initially into target regions around New Zealand as pilot programs. But I think we're basing our, I guess, strategy and I guess projections on the number of household connections that we can successfully connect
Mm.
to our internet service. And then again, as I said, it's important to also understand and know how many members are impacted within that household. I mean, there's probably a number of other metrics, but for me, straight off the bat, and initially, anyways, that's what probably we're going to be focusing on. That now, qualitative data is a different set of data, I feel, and that really is going to come through feedback from our customer households, but also from the work that we do alongside our community partners within those communities. So I feel like we're going to one of the ways in which we're going to work alongside our community partners that are working within those target regions is that they are basically going to help to guide us, and they're going to help us to identify where the need is. And I think I'm kind of answering a question that's coming up anyways,
Yeah, that's right.
but community partnerships, I feel, are going to be critical to the success of the work that we do on the ground in these communities where the need is most.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that. Now, so you've got to get some partnerships or collaborations in place
Mm.
to make this a success, right? So, what sort of partnerships are really important?
Yeah, I guess one of the most important, I guess, relationships that we have to manage and nurture over time is the relationships that we have with LFCs. So, LFCs like Chorus, as an example, being the major, I guess,
Yeah.
LFC in New Zealand today, because it's the LFCs that uh, will allow us to provide, or they will allow us to provide low cost products, much lower than what you would see on the retail side of town, and I'll speak to that in a little bit. So working closely with the likes of Chorus, with Tuatahi Fibre, with Engage, and also with North Power Fibre is critically important to
Mm.
how we progress as an entity that's focused 100% on social impact. So for any of the RSPs or the retail ISPs that might be listening into this podcast today, what I can say to you is that we're not focused on we're not commercially driven. We're certainly not focused on profit, and we don't want to carve out or take any of your customers. It's certainly not what our intention is, nor is it our mandate. What we are trying to do is affect positive change and affect social impact through the provision of low-cost fast internet to whānau households that would not be able to afford it otherwise. And so it's quite a different target. It's quite a different audience, right? So we will be focused solely on those the low income households that are not your customers at the moment, but have a need, and so we're just filling a gap. I feel we're just providing a solution to fill a gap where their need is most. And if we think about the founding, I guess, statistic. We know that there's 58,000 low income households. We also know there's 130,000 households right now in New Zealand today that don't have an internet connection. So I feel like, well, I know that that's where our commitment lies. And so working closely with the LFCs, who also have to work with the retail ISPs as well, is critically important to how we progress and how we strategize, and also how we address the need of our low income households through the provision of that low cost fast internet. It's yeah. So again, just touching on our community partners, we need to leverage the relationships we have with our community partners to help us to identify where those whānau are, where those households are, because we can't just rely on the data, Craig. We've got a
Yeah.
whole swag of data, and we can all access the data. We have so we know through data anyway, and multiple sources of data potentially where these households are, but you actually need to go one step further, and you need to engage with community partners that work within those communities themselves, and they will tell you they know where the need is straight off the bat. So, one, they're going to help us identify where the need is, and secondly, they're going to help us to metaphorically enter the household as a trusted
Mm.
organization. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's the old adage: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink the water,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like this is very much the position that we are in. So the community partnerships are going to be critical to the success of not
Yeah.
only connecting up those households, but also getting into the household to then provide them with other impactful services like digital literacy, as an example. Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
last
Okay.
thing that I will
Yeah.
mention in terms of a challenge for us right now at the minute is like it's a practical one, and it seems like a simple one, but we are trying to identify a Wi-Fi router supply chain. So this is a
Okay.
very practical need, and trust me, we've been from pillar to post trying to find not just a router device like the actual make and model, but also a supplier and therefore a supply chain. So if there's anyone out there that is potentially a member of Tuans or the Digital Boost Alliance that might have some idea or insight into how we can address this particular specific challenge, but it is critically important to the success of the
Yeah.
internet rollout as well, because that's the thing that obviously gets the internet service into the household is the Wi-Fi router. And there's 101 different devices that you could purchase, but we're obviously looking for a good make and model, but also a cost-effective model
Yeah.
as well, being as how we're a social impact organization, not for profit focus. So, yeah.
Well, since you've gone there around the the device, how's it actually technically going to work? Because you've talked about the LFCs, but they can only provide a connection. You've talked about the
Yeah.
device, but there's a whole bunch of things in between to make an ISP work.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a real journey for myself. I mean, if I thought about it, this journey started for me anyway 3 years ago when we were delivering digital literacy programming into marae communities, and I was often asked by those marae trustees, when our internet finishes or ends, can we sign up to you, Lee, for our internet services? And of course, I wasn't an ISP at that time, and but it did plant the seed, Craig. It did plant the seed for me, and I thought, okay, well, what could that look like if I was able to provide an internet service to what is essentially low income community, charitable community, if you like. child world focused community like a marae community, what would that look like? And that set me off on this journey. And of course, as you know, last year I then became involved in the research for the Affordable Internet Connectivity Report, alongside DECA and also TUANZ. And that was kind of validated a lot of the assumptions that we had as a I guess as a collective, but also me, having started the journey 3 years ago. So here we are today, and I think it's actually really quite simple to become an ISP. That's probably the brief answer in response to your question. It's quite simple. There's a few regulatory things that you need to be mindful of, but technically how it works is you have to have some system or platform that provides you with the ability to provision households. So we're about to sign up with a third-party telco provisioning platform, Divoli. I'm happy to say it's Divoli, and so there's a few options out there, but we've decided to jump on board with Divoli, and they're a great team, got a great product and their provisioning platform. So that provides you with the ability to onboard households and provision them. So that's probably technically that's the biggest part. But then if you look at Wi-Fi routers, that's probably the second part to the puzzle, right? Technical, from a technical perspective. So yep, connect the household, connect them to the fiber network through whatever LFC is managing that network in that area, in that town, in that city, in that region. And then the second piece to it is get a Wi-Fi router into the house if they don't already have one. Likely they won't have one because they probably haven't had an internet connection before. If they do have a Wi-Fi router, cool, we'll work on that by case basis. But this is the reason why our target households and our customer base will likely require a Wi-Fi router straight off the bat. So that's the second part to the technical puzzle. Get a Wi-Fi router that's obviously been pre-configured. Talk them through the process of plug that in, power that on, etc., etc. And then once those two things are done, boom, the lights will turn on. Metaphorically, the lights will turn on, and the internet should go right. So I guess that's the technical process. So it's actually relatively straightforward, but then we have to think about the customer support part piece, right? So
Yeah.
things are going to start working. Things are not going to work when you're onboarding households. Stuff goes wrong. So initially, we've put together a small team, a small community-based team, actually in the far north, working alongside one of my close and trusted peers, that will provide that initial, what I'm calling CX support, or customer support, essentially. So I guess that's the third piece to this, the technical outlay, is providing that customer support. So hopefully that paints a bit of a picture.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm most interested then in, you've got the technical parts worked out. There are costs along the way. How do you plan to ensure the long-term financial sustainability of this mahi?
Yeah, I guess that is literally that's $1 million question, isn't it? And I think uh, sustainability in any business and organization is an important, I guess, challenge. It's an important challenge to overcome because, as you know, we can't continue to rely on philanthropic funding and also government funding as well, and we shouldn't. We shouldn't. As a as a organization focused on social impact, we shouldn't be relying on those to sustain the business. So some of the thinking that I have around that is really simple. We'll look to introduce a range, or actually probably only one or two retail priced products. So what does that mean is consumer retail price products that you would typically be able to purchase from any of the retail ISPs, and those retail price products will help to subsidize the low cost products or the low cost tier or the low cost products that we offer to our target customer base, which is low income households. So to me, this is one way that we're trying to develop pay it forward mechanisms. So, and so Craig might decide, okay, well, I'm gonna instead of paying for my internet service from company X, or company Y, because there is a company X, sorry, company Y, from company Y. I'm going to choose to buy a retail price product from Social Impact ISP, and because I know that a portion of that will go to subsidize low income households and whānau as well. So I guess that's one way that we hope to achieve financial sustainability, is to provide those, to offer those retail price products. I mean, if you do, but seriously, if you do the numbers, whew, there's not a lot of margin in this stuff, and certainly that's not a long-term strategy, not by any means. And I guess we'll have to think about other ways that we can achieve that long-term financial sustainability as a business. But and just ideas, spitballing, we could look to get into digital literacy offerings, as an example. So there'll be a free level of, obviously, that we offer to all of our customer households, but potentially we will create a digital literacy learning platform that obviously services our customers, but also anyone, as an example. And kind of done a lot of thinking and some work already in that space. So that's potentially one other offering that we could provide that will help to sustain the business. But yeah, I'm very open to ideas and insights as well from anyone that might be listening to this podcast at the minute. And certainly, again, I have to mention, like, private sector corporates. If there's anyone out there that has any brilliant ideas around how they could get behind something that I feel is a really important kaupapa, then please do reach out, and I'll be happy to have a chat.
Cool. You did mention the government in there, so I do want to just check in on you, because people will ask this. Are there any existing government initiatives or programs that you're thinking of leveraging?
Yeah, I guess in terms of collaboration, I should mention that there has been firstly, there have been a number of low cost ISPs that have existed or been stood up, and there are some that are still exist today, actually. So this is by no means is this a new thing. So that's the first thing. Secondly, we know that there are some really great examples of the delivery of low cost fast internet initiatives at the moment. And I guess the one that's definitely worth a mention is what they refer to as EDOS. So it was the Ministry of Education funded low cost fast internet program into student households, so that and it came out of COVID, obviously, because the need was identified, and primarily it's delivered into lower socioeconomic households. So pretty much exactly what we're trying to do ourselves, except it is funded by, or has been funded to date anyway, by the Ministry of Education, or essentially the government. So Manaia Kalani Education Trust has partnered with Fusion Networks to deliver that awesome initiative. And yes, we have been having chats with the team over there, and it's really just to share insights. We want to learn from the challenges that they face. We also want to learn from some of the successes that they were able to achieve. Andrew over at Fusion Networks is awesome fellow, and I've had a couple of catch ups with him. But I guess in terms of collaboration, that's an example of how we're collaborating with an existing initiative to hopefully gain some insights that will help to, I guess, progress and develop the work that we're doing. And so another awesome individual that's doing similar work in this space at the minute is Pete Baines, Craig. So he's an awesome dude, and I've had a few meetings with him. And so he did work. He's consulted to a number of LFCs. I think it was over at Tuatahi Fibre at one point, and I actually met him at the Twins 2 years ago, Craig, Pete. And so he's doing similar work in this space as well. So we're looking to collaborate with Pete however we can, and however we can sort of align and combine our skills and insights. He's an engineer, so he's got a really awesome level of technical knowledge and expertise. But also he's really keen to work in with us, because he knows that we have some really great community partnerships and community networks as well. So to me, this is really just a really great example of Kiwis collaborating with Kiwis. I mean, ultimately we have the same goal, whether it's EDOS
Mm.
into in an education context, primarily in South Auckland, or whether it's Pete doing his mahi in the Wellington region. We all ultimately have the same goal, and that's to fill a gap, to fill a need where low income households need access to the internet. And so we're working together. I'm not
Awesome.
working with any sort of government kind of partners at the moment, but always open, always
And I
open.
suppose that's where I want to pull it together now. Thanks for your time, but I do want to pull it together now to finish up on. And what I'm going to do is ask you to lay out the challenge that you've talked about through the session about people that might be able to help you. So, how about you lay out the challenge as to how people could get in touch with you, what you need, what help you need? But basically, yeah, put it out there, mate.
Yeah, nice one. Thank you. And I think the success part the success of this kaupapa will really rely on the relationships that we build, and we've built some awesome relationships along the way already. But we really need to be able to build relationships, particularly into the private sector. So there is a challenge there that I'll put out to I guess members of the Digital Boost Alliance to just at least have a look at what we're doing. We do actually have a shopping list of needs, Craig. So and that's being shared publicly online. So if you need to have a look at that, or you want to have a conversation about how you can support the social impact ISP, please reach out. You can either get in touch with me through Craig, or it's not hard to find me online, to be honest. So I guess the challenge to the private sector is, how can you help? There's a number of ways that we can be helped. So please have a look, consider, and reach out. I think in terms of government, I mean, the government could be an important, I guess, contributor to supporting this organization, but at the same time, we know that it's very incredibly challenging at the moment. Budgets across the board, across multiple agencies, so there's not really a challenge that I'll put out to government agencies, but again, probably just have a look at what we're doing, and if there's the potential for some alignment in some way where we can support some of the community-focused initiatives that you're, particularly in the digital space, then again, it's worth a conversation. So do reach out. But I think for all of us, and again, coming back to the purpose and the intent of the social impact ISP in the first place, we know that there are whānau that don't have an internet connection. We know that there are households that are excluded from participating as citizens within an increasingly digital world. I've said it before and I'll say it again. So, how can we as individuals contribute to or support this problem that we have in a first world country today, where we have households and we have whānau that are unable to participate because of the digital divide, and also because of the impacts of data poverty. It's a digital equity conversation. I understand that, and it's a big part of who I am and a big part of the work that I do. But I think we really just need to ask ourselves the question: is it okay? Is that okay? Is it okay for whānau in New Zealand today to not have access to the internet? Some might argue that it's actually a basic necessity. It's a basic human right, much the same as power should be a basic human right, right? So yeah, maybe just have a think about that and see where you
Mm.
end up.
Well, I want to thank you, Lee, for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Lee, you're a man of vision, but you're also a man of action. You want to get things done as well, and I really appreciate that. And I want to, you know, give you the kudos for that, and for your mahi. So thank you again, Lee. Thank you everyone for listening into this special episode of Techbytes. You know how to get hold of me through the Turns website, or as Lee said, he's not difficult to find online. Just Google Lee Timutimu, or maybe Google Lee Timutimu in his latest project. It might work well. So,
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.